Hello and welcome to round 5 of Grand Prix Hartford. 1,800 players here today battling it out in Modern. One of those players, Mike Sigrist. I'm sure you know him, playing Black, Red, Hollow One, currently sitting at 4-0. He will be going up against Jake Mondello on 5-color Humans. And this is the deck you picked to win the whole thing, Jake. Humans.
Yeah, I think that Humans, in my opinion, is the most powerful deck in Modern right now. I've played this particular matchup a lot on the Human side, and I've been told by many people that the Black Red Hollow One is favored, but my record would disagree with that quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, an Ether
I do
Vial
very well here
on turn 1 there for Jake. It's a perfectly fine play. See if Hollow One can put any Hollow Ones into play on turn 1. We saw this deck in action in some earlier rounds this tournament. All right, let's spin the wheel here. Draw 3, discard 3. Everybody does it. One of the stranger cards as you discard at random and to force your opponent to do the same.
Yeah, and then this could be a nightmare for Jake. Could be a nightmare for Mike. He could discard all of his Hollow Ones.
That is often a risk you're taking playing the Hollow One deck. But as we've been talking about, works on multiple axes, attacking from the graveyard as well. A lot of times. There you see Burning Inquiry on your screen. Each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Unusual to kind of see a universal effect like that. And with random on the card as well. Even stranger yet. Ooh, I see a Hollow One in Mike Sigrist's hand.
So turn 1, 4-4. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, look at how much discarding we've already done. 1 Hollow One in the graveyard, unfortunately for Sigrist. Jake Mondello, by the way, 2 Grand Prix top 8s in Cleveland and Quebec City in 2015.
And Jake pretty happy that he got to discard that excess vial, probably.
Yeah, not bad. Could be worse. Sigrist does have that Hollow One in play, though.
Yeah, the Human deck usually needs to start its own clock going and then use cards like Reflector Mage to swing the tides in its own favor so that it can win the race here.
Is that a phantasmal image copying a Hollow One?
It is. So.
All right. Well, normally Humans prefers to copy, its own cards. But why not copy a Hollow One?
Yeah, 4 for 2 mana is a fine deal.
Mike Sigrist going to cycle away a Street Wraith here.
Looks like Mike drew a Hollow One for his turn here.
Ooh, that's nice.
Attention Magic players.
Faithless Looting.
I need Ryan D.
See if we can't get that Hollow One into play.
And this is just an absurd draw here from Mike.
And this is an interesting matchup as well. Not only are these 2 very popular decks, but turns out that Mike Sigrist is actually a mentor of Jake's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jake spent a lot of time on Skype and in person learning from Mike. So it's a bit of the apprentice fighting the master here.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Stu playing 2 of the most popular decks right now in Modern.
And you see those Phoenixes in the yard there for Sigrist as well. Just another way that the deck is able to pile a lot of power onto the battlefield, even if the cards aren't in your hand.
Yeah, just providing a ton of longevity and, against Humans, the Phoenixes are quite strong until Mantis Rider
Until the
comes
3
down.
mana, critical
Yeah.
3 mana, yes.
Mantis Rider very good at both blocking Flamewake Phoenix and attacking all at the same time.
All right, well, we're getting in there. Hollow One and the Flamewake Phoenix. Into the red zone for Sigrist. Follow-up play, another hollow one. We're going to put a Champion of Parish into play for Jake. Off of that Ether Vial, we'll tick it up to 2. No trade there for the image on the hollow one.
Yeah, Mike already down to 10 here from cycling those street wraiths and playing untapped Shocklands. So Jake figuring that racing is his best course of action here.
All right, so Jake's going to turn that image sideways. Sigrist looks like he's interested in blocking. And that's a good point too, JVL, because you have got to keep a close eye on your life total to the pain you are dealing yourself in this format.
Yeah, Modern gets pretty painful with all of these fetches and shocks. So.
And there was the trade. Image and hollow one head to the yard. Siggy keeping his life total at 10. A burn deck never has to do 20. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So Meddling Mage here now for Jake Mondello. And, he could play it safe and name something like Faithless Looting because he sees one in Mike Sigrist's yard already. He could name something like Lightning Bolt.
Oh, yeah.
But Meddling Mage not really at its best in this matchup. Quite a bit stronger against more combo-y decks or controlling decks.
See if we can figure out what that's named. There's a look at Meddling Mage on your screen, starring Chris Bakula.
The least offensive art, It's his card.
Meddling Mage just chants so loudly that no one can get a spell in edgewise. I've never read that flavor text before. That's excellent. All right, so the Mage did, in fact, name Lightning Bolt. Good call. Flamewake Phoenix there. For Sigrist, coming on back. Swinging in for 6.
Mike Sigrist definitely has something to do with all this mana because he has another Phoenix in his graveyard, and he did not
He didn't
pay
do
the
it.
mana for that trigger, yeah.
He's shuffling his cards around quite a lot. I do see a Goblin Lore.
Jake deciding whether or not he wants to try to double block this hollow one here.
And we're going to vial in a Phantasmal image here. I'm not 100% what that's copying. But he did name... it might be Meddling Mage, because I think he said Gurmag Angler. Lingering Souls here for Sigrist. Some fairies playing the role of some spirits.
They're 1/1 flyers. So
there we go.
Jake had the option there to have used that Phantasmal image to copy the hollow one and go for a trade. Instead, continuing his plan to try to race here, but now his life total down to just 6. Things are starting to get real dangerous.
All right, we've got a lieutenant here for Jake. He's going to distribute some counters.
I believe there should be one more on the champion. Oh, I guess that trigger could still be happening.
Ah, good call. Jake Mondello swings into the red zone here. Look at Thalia's lieutenant. One of the most fabulous humans, if I do say so myself. Used to play her in Standard.
Yeah, Thalia's Lieutenant is really, really impressive. The draws where you're able to have Lieutenant into some number of Phantasmal images are disgusting.
That's one way to put it. I would put it as great.
Oh, I agree.
Oh,
I agree.
okay,
I was
okay.
using that as a positive adjective.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is like when Megan and I talk about cards and we saw the new Teferi from Dominaria, and she's like, oh, this is awesome. His ability is so great. And I'm like, oh, it's so gross.
Yeah. That card's very good. I'm excited about that one.
Oh, yeah? Sigrist here considering blocks. It'll be nice Jake can get some direct feedback after this match, though, from his teacher, Sigrist.
Yeah. Like, be like, so.
How did I play?
It's weird. Just the racing situation is not looking great for Jake because Lingering Souls provides Mike with just an unbelievable amount of chump blocking. Here I'd be surprised if Mike didn't use the Phoenix trigger.
You worried at all about... Nah, I'm probably not worried about a Mantis Rider.
Yeah, I mean, at this point,
Who
I
cares?
guess, you know, these Phoenixes are going to have to attack anyway.
Okay, so the Phoenixes are taken to the skies here for Sigrist. Swinging in for 4, Jake dropping him down to 2. Lingering Souls flashback. Make 2 more spirits. Over to Jake.
Attention players. Pitching Alex Robinson.
3 blockers back for Sigrist. Remember, our meddling mage is naming Bolt, the other Gurmag angler.
You know, Jake needs to find some way to either win this turn or get both of these Phoenixes off the table, which is gonna be pretty hard to do as a humans deck.
That's the drawback of humans, right? Like, you have access to incredible mana and some powerful synergies. What you don't have is mana to cast non-creature spells.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, they're just going to go ahead and scoop him up, move on to game 2 here. Unable to get through the final points of damage. You can see both the players laughing and smiling as Sigrist picks up the win there in game number 1.
And the Black-Red Hollow one, when it draws well, it draws really, really well. And there we saw the power of a turn 1 Burning Inquiry into Hollow 1. Turn 1 4/4.
Seems fair.
Yeah, does it? Does it, Maria?
No, actually, now that I think about it. So we were just talking about how humans is not really able to cast non-creature spells. You've got your Ether Vial, but that's about it. So let's take a look at Jake's sideboard, because I'm interested to know how easily this humans deck is able to sideboard to try and deal with threats from your opponent when your deck is doing one thing very well, which is casting humans.
So the human deck post-board against this deck gets access to Grafdigger's Cage. It is 2 copies. You either want to bring in one or both of them. Drawing them in multiples is obviously very bad, and the Hollow One deck still can play its Hollow Ones, still can cast cards like Bloodghast and Phoenix, and still can play the Delve cards, even if you have the Cage. So Cage, while very good, not as backbreaking as it is in some matchups. Dismember is really your best card here,
Sure.
post-board. Most human decks have 2 copies. Jake has both copies of that, so he's going to be bringing those in.
Another card that doesn't have color requirements.
Yeah. And the last card that I would expect Jake to bring in here is maybe in some number, Hostage Taker.
Ooh.
I could imagine seeing 1 Hostage Taker being brought in here. So, that's really what I would do. I think that there are a lot of cards in Jake's deck that aren't the best. I think you really need to be racing pretty aggressively. So, cards that are interactive with the opponent are less strong here, especially when you're on the draw. So for the second game where Jake's on the play, I imagine he's going to be keeping things like Freebooter in the deck. But in the third game where he's on the draw, I imagine he's going to be wanting to take them out.
All right, well, let's take a peek at Sigrist's sideboard. What does he have to? What does he have there to deal with humans?
So Sigrist has some pretty nice ones here post-board. Grim Lavamancer is a great card against humans. Additional copies of Fatal Push, obviously very strong here. And he even has 2 big game hunters, which will probably not come in because they really only become relevant when the human deck has already gotten out of hand.
Yeah, once you're losing.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Grim Lavamancer and Fatal Push are the cards that Mike Sigrist is going to be able to bring in. And post-board, I think the game's sway to being slightly in Mike's favor here. So while Game 1, I thought Jake was a pretty heavy favorite based on my playing of the match.
Sure.
Jake still lost, and that's part of the power of the Hollow One deck is that even when somebody positions himself well against you, you can still just beat them. Like, your best draws are so close to unbeatable that it's just scary.
We saw Hollow One in the hands of Owen Turtenwald last round. Victorious as well.
Yeah, and he was beating Leyline of the Voids.
Yes. Seems unbeatable. I mean, your deck works out of the graveyard so much. He was able to get around it.
Yeah, I really like his use of Street Wraith as an attacker. It's one of my favorite ways to win games of Modern.
Oh, I love it.
Have a 3/4 Swamp Walk that I paid 5 mana for. Can't get bolted. Can't get Fatal Pushed.
Oh, yes. Modern, a glorious format, attacking with my 3/4 Swamp Walk that I paid the full price for. I love it.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And when your opponent has 2 Leyline of the Voids,
yeah,
it's like they mulligan to 5. Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess putting it that way. Players here drawing opening hands for Game 2. Here we are in round 5. We're in the last round of the Pro Show here on stream. Coming up next will be the Win and In, where if you win, you're in Day 2. Remember to get into Day 2, record of X and 2 or better.
Yeah, only 8 rounds on Day 1 now.
I know, it's so short.
Let's see if Mike can have one of these explosive draws again.
All right, leaving it on top. Noble Hierarch, we're kicking things off there for the humans deck. Bolt in hand for Sigrist. Street Wraith.
I'm not quite sure of the full content of his hand. I see a Flameblade Adept, and he may just want to lead with that. It's also possible that he just wants to lead by bolting the Hierarch on the other side of the table. But seeing that there is no Hollow One in his hands, I don't think he's going to go for turn 1 Burning Inquiry here. So I think that we'll either be seeing a Bolt or a Flameblade Adept.
Oh, come on. Don't you just live for, I'm going to Burning Inquiry just to ruin my opponent's hand.
It's a fine way to live one's life.
Yes, Chad, I agree. I can't wait till Yargle is Modern legal. That 9/3 Frog Boy. All right, here's Flameblade Adept from Sigrist.
So does Jake have one of the powerful 3s to punish Mike for not having bolted the Hierarch? That's the question. One thing that's interesting, though, is that Mike may have actually thought about that and thought to himself, well, if Jake uses 3 mana to play a Mantis Rider, I have the Bolt now.
Right. There you go. There is that Mantis Rider. Look at Flameblade Adept here. Just a little 1/2 with Menace, but whenever you cycle or discard, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And as we've seen throughout today, Hollow One, very good at discarding. Adept can get out of control before you know it.
Mantis Rider is just so good. I think, since Bloodbraid Elves come back, my favorite card that I've cascaded into so far has been Mantis Rider.
Oh, boy.
If anybody's tried any of those Tribal Flames decks, but they're pretty fun.
It does sound fun. And sure enough, the Bolt gets the Mantis Rider. The question is, should you bolt the creature that makes the Rider a turn early, or save it for the rider? What do you think?
I think here I like Mike's line, and the reason I like Mike's line is that it means he already has a threat in the battlefield that's attacking.
Sure.
So now this Flameblade Adept, assuming there's no more discarding going on, which isn't necessarily true. Oh my goodness gracious.
What a mad rip from Sigrist. Wow.
Just paws out a pair of Mantis Riders and a Reflector Mage from Jake.
Brutal.
Then has a hollow one to play for free with that Burning Inquiry. And the Flameblade Adept, yeah, it attacked for 4.
That was insane.
Oh my goodness.
Just the best cards in your deck. Get them out of here. What skill from Sigrist?
Jake, probably not thrilled.
No, I would be quite sad in Jake's seat right now. Man, I had 3 super good cards. They're all in the bin. Burning Inquiry, man.
So Mike, with the option to play Goblin Lore there, instead decides to use his mana to return that Phoenix to the battlefield.
Keeping the pressure on.
Yeah, can't use the Phoenix ability and Goblin Lore because Thalia, Guardian of Throbbin's in the battlefield, but
yeah, that lore will actually be pretty nice for Sigrist too, because he's holding the other 2 cards. He's holding our lands.
he gets to turn
Oh, it's just a land, yeah.
some random card into another random card, essentially.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
All right, action back over on Jake here. Champion of the Parish is the first play. See if we can get some action going here after some of his best cards hit the graveyard. Thalia's Lieutenant is going to distribute some counters.
Wow.
Wow, this is great. Another
big turn
Noble
here.
Hierarch. That Champion of the Parish grew pretty big, pretty quickly.
Yeah, now this Thalia attacking for 5 right now. Kind of scary.
Yeah. Double exalted off of those Hierarchs.
And it looked like Mike was just running away with this one. I mean, think about his draw. He had a turn 1 Flayblade Adept. He had a Bolt for the Mantis Rider. His Burning Inquiry
Was insane.
was the best Burning Inquiry that's ever happened in all of Magic. And
Yeah.
not quite. I
it
mean,
might be. I don't know.
I've seen people play multiple hollow ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Triple exalted.
Oh, wow, yeah. I like that Mike went ahead and chump blocked there. I think that a bigger mistake that a lot of people make in these chumping racing wars when they're playing Modern is to wait to chump because they're so used to doing it in other formats. But
Yeah.
when you're playing against a deck like Humans, when they're still attacking with a single creature with Exalted triggers from Noble Hierarch, it's often correct to chump earlier because your chump actually saves you more life than if you waited until a lethal attack where they're attacking with a whole bunch of creatures.
Oh, that's really interesting. I never heard that before. Jump blocking is, and knowing when to do it, I think is a real level up moment.
Oh, absolutely. It's something that's very difficult to do properly. And it's funny because when you think about doing it, it's, you know, it's the thing you do when you're losing usually. So
But it can be so strategic to be able to pull yourself ahead later as well. Sigrist here contemplating that himself, considering the attacks. Doing some math on the table. All right, we're going to cycle that Street Wraith. I think he whiffed on that draw. Pass back. Phantasmal Image here, going to copy the Lieutenant, and
Yep.
Sigrist is like, that'll do it. Scoops him up. Jake Mondello ties things up at 1 game apiece here in round 5. 5-color humans versus black-red hollow one, 2 very popular decks at this tournament.
Yeah, of the 4 commentators, I believe these were 2 of the 4 decks that were picked to win the tournament.
Yes. So you picked humans.
I did.
Melissa picked black-red hollow one.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall picked Tron. I don't know if he gets all Trons in that guess or if you just specify. I feel like that's cheating.
That's a pretty wide answer, right?
I'll have to check with him.
All
Not
right,
sure.
all right.
Rich picked Burn, and I picked Boggles. So we'll see. I feel like my deck has won the last 2 tournaments in which Modern has been played. So no big deal.
2 of the last 3.
Okay, sure.
Right,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
But yes, it did. Mine won 1 of the last 3.
Good job.
Thanks.
You can
Yeah.
use the hashtag what deck would win to put in your vote for what deck you think would win.
If you agree with me, pick humans.
Hashtag what deck would win, hashtag, or wait, no, humans, hashtag what deck would win, hashtag JVL is right.
Yes.
Okay.
Hashtag JVL's
Great,
right.
great.
Or you can do hashtag Maria's right and say Boggles.
Yes, my hashtag, however, is Maria's always right, so it's a little different than yours.
Okay. That's fair. So going into game 3 here, I imagine the sideboarding is going to get a little bit different. And, I talked a little bit about that
You did.
before, but I think that the more disruptive elements from Jake Mondello are likely going to come out of his deck. Something like a Kitesail Freebooter on turn 2 when you're on the play can do a lot in this matchup. But when you're on the draw, by the time that you're playing that Kitesail Freebooter or getting it on the battlefield, it's often too late for that to really affect Mike Sigrist's game plan.
Right.
So as a result, post-board in the 3rd game, here on the draw, I imagine what Jake is going to want to do is make his deck as good at killing Mike as possible and just getting Mike's permanence off the battlefield. So the most important cards for Jake here are going to be Reflector Mages. Dismember is also going to be quite good. And he also just wants a clock, so things like Champion of the Parish, Thalia's Lieutenant, and Mantis Rider.
Something that I need to work on in Modern for sure is my sideboarding between games 2 and 3. Jake Mondello taking a mulligan here. I think he showed off a hand of all lands.
Ugh. That's not easy to do when you're playing humans. Jake's deck here, taking a look at it, he has 19 lands.
Wow.
So, 7 cards.
Power of the Vial, man.
Yeah, Vial, the games you can win with a Vial and just 1 land are often very crazy.
Sigrist here has kept his 7. Don't see any hollow ones in his hand, though, so we won't be seeing any of that action. Well, you never know. You never know.
He could turn 1 Burning Inquiry, hit 3 hollow ones, not discard any of them, and just have 3 hollow ones in play on turn 1.
He does have Street Wraith in hand as well.
You can have 4 hollow ones in play on turn 1.
What did we see at the Pro Tour? 3 on turn 1? I think that's what happened.
I think we did see 3 on turn 1 once.
Oh, it was so sick. Jake Mondello here, happy with the 6. We're going to do some land searching here for Mike Sigrist and see what happens next. All right, Street Wraith. Let's pay the 2, see what we got. All right, Burning Inquiry. Here we go.
It's hilarious. I mean, Jake could end up with no lands. That's part of the danger of playing against this Black-Red Hollow.
Yeah, Jake
deck.
has done nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is scary. I'm spooked.
Anything can happen.
All right, let's see if Sigrist's hit can be even sicker off of Burning Inquiry this time than it was last game. Draw 3, discard 3 at random. What do we get? Hollow one into the graveyard for Sigrist. Unfortunately, a Lingering Souls, though. Doesn't mind that being there. What did Jake discard? We have a Kessig Malcontents, a land, one other card, a Phantasmal Image. Cavernous Souls is a play for Jake. So, didn't get all of his land nabbed there.
Well, it looks like Jake got to improve upon his hand, most likely here.
I mean, that's the other danger, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about it like it's always bad. Not necessarily. Noble Hierarch hits the battlefield for Mondello.
It's a card with a very, very wide range of outcomes.
Yes. Random outcomes. I just love that this Hollow One deck exists. Like, somebody thought to put all of this together to make this deck.
I think it's funny because it's this deck that seems so gimmicky, and upon first seeing it, you're like, oh, I don't want to try this discarding at random, and then weeks pass, and a few weeks later, suddenly it's like one of the top
Wait a
decks
second.
in Modern.
This is
Yeah.
actually excellent. Faithless Looting here from Sigrist. All right, let's do it again. Burning Inquiry number 2.
Anything could happen.
I love how Jake looks at it to see what he might be missing.
It's interesting how different personality types look and or don't look.
Yeah. It's the same with when you look after you mulligan,
Yeah.
probably. Resto Angel, wow, in the graveyard there for Jake. She can come in out of the board as well as 2 lands.
Yeah, Resto Angel post board here for Jake, providing a good threat in the form of Flyer that Mike Sigrist can't really ever block because Phoenixes have to attack a return, of course. Also just blocking Phoenixes forever and saving Jake's creatures from spot removal spells.
All right, well, Jake's still able to develop the board there. That discard not too terrible for him last turn. We've got a Thalia and a Champion of the Parish.
Yeah, Thalia, very good in this matchup when you're on the play. On the draw, sometimes less so.
Grim Lavamancer there for Sigrist, and you mentioned this being a pretty backbreaking card potentially for Jake.
Yeah, this could be a tough one for Jake to overcome here.
Another Champion of the Parish. Is it Staticaster? Hoo-hoo-hoo.
Perfect.
There we go. Take down that Lavamancer and swing in. Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, it's a Staticaster card that comes in post-board in this matchup because of Grim Lavamancer, Lingering Souls, and Bloodghast. Lots of decent targets there. It also works really nicely with the first strike you find on so many of the humans you see in the deck.
Yes. Flamewake Phoenix is Mike Sigrist's play.
And that's going to be
That's it. Jake Mondello takes the
Yeah.
win over Mike Sigrist. The student is now the master.
Yeah, Thalia's Lieutenant just pumping out too much damage too fast there. Impressive stuff.
All right, Jake. We need to know. Inquiring minds need to know your card of the match here.
My card of the match, because humans won, I'm going to say a card out of humans.
Okay.
Thalia's Lieutenant.
All right, yeah. You mentioned it was good in this matchup.
Yeah, in Game 2, we saw Thalia's Lieutenant get Phantasmal Imaged, and it just gave Jake Mondello a battling force that was just too much, and he was able to send in a lethal attack when Mike thought he had set himself up to have correct blocks to win on the swing back. And in Game 3, Thalia's Lieutenant again set up a lethal attack. In matchups like this where you're often racing and the board gets very wide for the humans player, Thalia's Lieutenant can add a lot of damage to the board very quickly. And when the card is played in multiples or alongside Phantasmal Image, it is, as we've previously said, disgusting.
Or great.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with more magic after these messages. And welcome back to the booth for coverage of Grand Prix Hartford. Maria Bartholdi joined by Jacob Van Lunen, and we are in round 5 awaiting round 6, but we do have some time walk magic for you, and why not bring you some of the best in the world? We've got Seth Manfield, a robot sent from the future to win magic, versus Matthew Loong, who is from California, and he's played in several GPs before, came down from Toronto, Ontario to battle. All right, so he's going to have to battle Seth Manfield.
He's got his work cut out for him here. Seth Manfield, a world champion, a Pro Tour champion, the #1 ranked player in the world, decided to bring Boggles this weekend.
Woo! Hey! I like my chances even better now.
Yeah, I would if I were you. I think that...
Hashtag Team Boggs.
Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome to see. And there you go. You see the main deck ley line of Sanctity there for Seth Manfield already in play versus Jund.
Now, Seth, not afraid to play decks that have, the reputation that they are, easier to play somewhat than other decks. He played Tron for a number of weeks to a great deal of success. Top-8'd at least one Grand Prix playing Tron in the last few months. And here he is with Boggles. Has that turn 1 ley line of Sanctity, which is obviously going to be very good against whatever Black Cleave Cliffs deck his opponent is playing.
And we've got a couple of Umbras already on the Slippery Boy here, Spider and Hyena on the Boggle. And Boggles is a fairly straightforward deck that likes to just swing in for tons and tons of damage. However, we did see it played by Dan Ward a couple of rounds ago, and I'm going to say not every Boggles player would have won that game.
I think I would have lost.
Yeah, I think I would have as well. So a lot of people don't really respect the deck very much, and I think it does take a lot of skill to play as well, because there's a lot of small decisions that you have to make with Boggles, and a lot of it is knowing exactly what your opponent is up to so that you know how to play.
Yeah, the floor for entry may be lower than some decks, but the ceiling for mastery is also quite high.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. In this case, though, Seth Manfield doing it the easy way. Daybreak Coronet on the Slippery Boggle. Whew. GG, man.
That was a really fun way to do that. Just like slap
Boom.
it with
You
the
guys
hat.
got to slam the hat. Cat scarf version of this card.
Do you prefer the cat scarf
No,
version?
I like the original, OG. Matt Long already on 5 life here. And a Dryad Arbor in play for Seth. But also that ley line, so we weren't scared of Liliana anyway.
And that Bogle has 6 power. That's more power than Matt Long's life total.
Indeed. Daybreak Coronet, of course, the card from Boggles, which is kind of the reason for the season. Totally broken.
Yeah, not a very fair card.
No.
For 2 mana, an enchant creature. It gives your creature +3/+3 vigilance, lifelink, and first strike.
Yeah. All right, Liliana of the hugs coming down for Matt. She just wants a hug. Dryad Arbor goes down. Matt Long at 4. I want to ask about Jund now with Bloodbraid coming back. Do you think the deck is strong?
I think right now it is not particularly strong. I think people have adjusted the choice of threats they're playing so that the threats are particularly sticky or good, just good against removal. So we're seeing a lot more, persist creatures, things like Voice of Resurgence, just all these cards that match up well against spot removal. And when that starts happening, Jund gets quite a bit worse.
Reed Duke, of course, running Jund. We saw it last round. Last round.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, he is the Jund master.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's going to be able to win with Jund, it's Reed Duke. When you were putting Thoughtseizes and Inquisition of Kozilek's next to Tarmogoyf's, that's Reed Duke's special place.
Boggles on parade here for Seth Manfield. I would go and see that.
I wonder how they walk.
They probably waddle.
Hop, maybe?
Now their legs are actually pretty surprisingly long.
Yeah. They're jumpers, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
All
These
right.
are all really good questions that we need answered. We need answers, Wizards. Tarmogoyf here for Matt. Liliana will tick up.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf just a 2-3, so in chump block mode here.
Horizon Canopy Sacrifice from Seth Manfield. One of the ways the deck is able to dig a little tiny bit deeper to try and find more enchantments. Matt Long on 4 life. Seth here looks like is just going to be swinging for the fences. I thought the video paused there for a second, but it's just Seth making sure about his attack.
Yeah, deciding whether or not he wants to get in with these other 2 creatures. In doing so, they're basically going to get in because the Bogle that has the Daybreak Coronet on it has to be blocked. So Seth gets 2 damage in here.
What do you think he's considering? Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
where to go? Where to
sure.
if he's gonna shoot Liliana here?
Oh yeah, I guess he's just considering angle of attack. That seemed surprising to me because normally when a Planeswalker's loyalty is greater than the opponent's life total.
It's a nice little shortcut.
Yeah. I like to imagine that you can't even attack the Planeswalker. Of course, he's playing around the minus ability, so.
All right, we've got Liliana the Veil here. Discarding another Daybreak Coronet. Ooh, brutal. But it doesn't matter. Seth Manfield taking down game 1 against Matt Long and starting things off strong once again. Beginning the game with that ley line in play.
Yeah, and that ley line just so strong in a matchup like Jund. Turns off Thoughtseize, turns off Inquisition of Kozilek, turns off Liliana of the Veil's most important ability in this matchup. Liliana was traditionally one of the best cards against Boggles.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you just point at that thing and they have to sacrifice a creature. It doesn't target the creature. Just a perfect answer. Now, with Leyline of Sanctity, people are going to need to come up with a new plan to beat this thing. Crackling Doom? I don't know.
Matt Long down to 19 after a little tiny attack from the smallest Boggle there. Able to get through. Rest in peace here out of the board for Manfield. How good is that to bring in against Jund?
That leads me to believe that Seth likely just had more cards that he wanted to take out than he had to bring in. Not really the best card in the universe, but it is quite strong against Tarmogoyf, obviously. So the Tarmogoyf going to be a
Tiny little
0-1 here.
The lane line main deck is relatively new for Boggles as well.
Yeah, it's been a great innovation for the deck.
I take full credit.
Were you the first one to do
It's
this?
the first one that I knew of.
What? That's so sick.
I don't know if that's like true, but I played it in Vegas in my main deck, and people were very surprised. Hyena Umbra here on this Slippery Boggle.
I mean, it's been so impressive every time I've seen it. I think the ley lines have really pushed this from kind of a tier 2 fringy kind of deck to one of the most impressive weapons in all of Modern.
It's really interesting how decks kind of go up and down that ladder in the metagame. when I played this deck, it was my first Modern deck I ever played. GP Omaha a few years ago. I had no idea what I was doing. But it was not even considered like tier 3 or whatever back then because of Spell Skite was everywhere.
Oh, yeah, and that's... Now we don't really see many Spell Skites anymore because people aren't trying to Splinter Twin.
Griff's Boon here on the Boggle. Another relatively new card that some people are including as a one-of, which can come back from your graveyard if you need it to. And Grant's Flying. Plus a Daybreak Coronet. Seth here with a really strong draw.
Yeah, notice that Seth did not just go for the Daybreak Coronet on the second turn when he had the Hyena Umbra on his Slippery Bogle there. Instead, waited until he was able to get another Aura onto the Slippery Bogle. This was a really nice play from Seth because it allowed him to play around cards like Abrupt Decay and or Maelstrom Pulse and prevented Matt Long from being able to use that Abrupt Decay or Maelstrom Pulse on the Hyena Umbra to make the Daybreak Coronet fall off.
Yes, very important if you play this deck to know that interaction. All right, land number 3 here for Matt. With that ley line in play, what can he do?
It's pretty rough for a Jund deck once this happens. Like at this point, it's basically like he has to come up with a way to get the ley line off the battlefield first with something like a Maelstrom Pulse, and then he can start using cards that make Seth sacrifice that creature. So I think that basically his plan should be Maelstrom Pulse to get the ley line off the table, then Liliana make you sacrifice a creature. And that's a tall order.
Yeah. Liliana here forcing a discard from Seth. Let's look at what he has.
There are some draws that just win the game on the spot for Seth, I imagine.
Yes, there certainly are. Currently 6 power.
Yeah, Ethereal Armor would do it.
Three cards in hand there for Matt, which Seth was checking. Seth always a very, very thorough player. We saw this when he was about to win the Pro Tour. Just checking to make sure everything's okay. Do I win with this pump spell? A lot of people thought he was slow rolling his friend, but no, he was just double checking, triple checking.
It's worth doing when you're playing, these high stakes games. I mean, Seth, you don't become number 1 in the world by not triple checking your play.
No.
So.
A lot of people don't know this, but Seth's dad was a World Championship bridge player.
Yeah. Yeah, Seth, I think you're just deciding whether or not he wants to be attacking Matt or Liliana of the Veil.
What's the upside to attacking Liliana here?
So the reason you'd want to attack Liliana in this spot is because you're worried about Matt on the following turn using a spell that gets the Ley Line of Sanctity off the table. Well, it turns out to not matter because that fetch land can protect by going and getting a Dryad Arbor if Matt Long does find a card like Maelstrom Pulse. So to further expand on that, what was going on there is Seth had to decide whether or not he needed to kill this Liliana so that a Maelstrom Pulse couldn't kill the ley line and then make him sacrifice the creature. And then have Matt make him sacrifice the creature with Liliana. But now that he has this Windswept Heath in play, it means that if Matt did have the Maelstrom Pulse to make that play, he could sacrifice the Windswept Heath and go get a Dryad Arbor, which he could then sacrifice to the Liliana ability. So
Even your land's not dead draws in this deck. Canopy will draw a card as well. The new art on Horizon Canopy, very lovely. All right, there is a Rancor added to the stack of cards under that Slippery Boggle.
And that should be it.
And there is a handshake. Seth Manfield, number one in the world, takes down this match against Matt Loong, advancing to 5-0 heading into round 6. Welcome back to the booth, Marie Bartholdi, Jacob Van Lunen here at Grand Prix Hartford, where we are playing some Modern this weekend. Everybody's favorite format.
Yeah, I think it is now everybody's favorite format. I've never seen a constructed format where there are this many decks that are this competitive. It's incredible. So.
Oh, yeah, we've got some more Magic to watch, so let's watch it. More Magic, I'm in. Eduardo Sajgalik here, part of the commentary crew on Elves. Well, that's pretty cool. Versus Stephen Mcpherson on Mono White Soldiers.
Ooh, Mono White Soldiers.
Interesting. I don't know this deck.
Yeah, so this deck looks like it's similar to humans in some ways, but you know, its disruption is a bit different. You don't have the Mirror Crusader and Kitesail Freebooter. Instead, you just have both Thalias. The deck does, however, get to play with Path Exile and Dismember and Brave the Elements.
And there indeed is a Path to Exile on that Heritage Druid. All right. Passing back to Stephen Mcpherson. Tell me, how do you feel like Elves is situated right now?
I think Elves is quite good right now. I think there are a lot of decks that don't play a ton of removal, so the Elf deck can kind of just take over the game and win out of nowhere.
Sure.
In a matchup like this, I imagine Elves is especially strong. I think the only way Steven can really interact is with 4 copies of Path Exile and 1 copy of Dismember, which means it's going to be pretty easy for Eduardo to create infinite mana with this Devoted Druid and a Vizier of Remedies.
Yeah, I wonder if he's playing the combo.
And he is, yeah.
All right. Another Devoted Druid down there for Eduardo. As well as an Elvish Archdruid, which is an Elf Lord. And a 2/2. Pretty big for an elf.
And it looks like Eduardo has a Chord in hand, which could go get the Vizier and help him create infinite mana.
Kithian from Steve.
And there's our...
There's Thalia.
Yeah, and Thalia's Lieutenant, the card of the round. Card that allowed Jake Mondello to defeat Mike Sigrist, Pro Tour champion.
Thalia here assembling her army.
Of course, I think Eduardo likely wins on this turn.
All right, let's see if he can do it.
I'm not really sure what the textless card there was for Eduardo, but...
Stephen Mcpherson here playing his first Grand Prix since Theros came out. Came in from Maryland. Eduardo, of course, 5 Grand Prix top 8s, 2 Pro Tour top 8s. The most recent Pro Tour Ether Revolt. And a member of Team Coverage.
Yeah, I've played a decent amount of Elves online leading up to this tournament. I was not playing this version mostly. I was mostly playing the Shaman of the Pack versions of the deck.
Oh, sure.
But
what's the advantage to playing this versus Shaman of the Pack?
So the Shaman of the Pack versions of the deck are much better against decks that are, playing removal spells and trying to interact with you, while these versions of the deck are better against sheer combo strategies or strategies that are not interacting and killing your creatures. So against something like humans, Eduardo's version would be better. Against something like Hollow One, Eduardo's version would be better. But against decks like Jund, the Shaman of the Pack version would be better. I think currently this version is likely better.
All right, so Eduardo's going to go looking here. Making man with those devoted druids. There's Azuri.
Yep, and now Zuri alongside these pair of devoted druids will allow Eduardo to create infinite mana because he will he'll be able to make 6 mana with each of those Azuri activations, then pay 5 mana to use the Azuri activations, and in doing so will net an advantage over the course of time, and eventually these devoted druids will have infinite power and toughness, and he can untap them and simply attack with them as they trample for victory. So Eduardo doing the whole
He's
the whole
explaining
thing,
it
and then
here.
My devoted druids have 1 billion power and trample.
So Azuri, of course, you can pay 2 green. Elf creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn.
Yeah, well played here by Eduardo.
And you saw him like doing the math, figuring it out earlier this turn. This deck is, you've got to put the pieces of the puzzle together, as it were.
Yeah.
I love him here talking it out.
Yeah.
Steven's like, all right, I get it. I scoop.
Get it.
All right, we're going to move ahead to game 3. So that meant Steven must have tied it up there. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Too
That's
bad we didn't get to see Soldiers do its thing. Maybe we will this game.
Yeah, Elves seems to me like a deck that would be very favored in a matchup like this. Devoted Druid, again, coming down here for Eduardo. It's just such a dangerous card. You never want to tap mana ever again when your opponent plays a Devoted Druid.
So 2 Soldiers of the Pantheon in play for Stephen Mcpherson. 2/1, protection from multicolored. Whenever an opponent casts a multicolored spell, you gain 1 life. So these are just here to be 2/1. Goblin Pikers.
And I believe Eduardo can probably win this turn.
All right, here we go.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a second way to search. So
dang.
Yeah, I saw the cord, so we could have gotten a Vizier with the cord, but didn't have another way to use infinite mana if he got it.
Oh, Thraben Inspector, how I've missed you.
Yeah, another card that could work pretty nicely with Smuggler's Copter, maybe.
You are pushing that Smuggler's Copter angle.
It's a card I want to be good. I haven't played with it really in Modern, but
all right, everybody out there
seems
listening.
like so much fun.
JVL wants this to happen. Make it happen.
Yeah. People have done well with it, just not me.
What is the payoff in this Soldier's deck?
Thalia's Lieutenant?
Then
It really is,
Then why aren't you playing humans?
Yeah, well, this deck as opposed to humans gets to play actual spells. So you get to play Path and Dismember, and you get Brave the Elements, which can make your entire team unblockable against a deck that goes wide like Elves. It can counter a spell like Anger of the Gods against one of the Valakut decks. Is that a pair of chords there?
Well, there's one. Yep, sure is. Here we go.
Yeah, so if that chord is resolving, yeah, there's Vizier of Remedies. Now Eduardo can make 1 trillion mana.
Here we go. There he's explaining what's going to happen. I have another chord.
Zuri,
there's
and
Azuri.
Dump all of my mana into set Azuri. And attack.
Handshake. Eduardo Sajgalik taking down that match over Stephen Mcpherson, 2-1, advancing to 5-0. So well done, Eduardo, and cool to see some other brews there as well as mono white soldiers. All right, we'll be back with more Magic in round 6 from Grand Prix Hartford after these messages.